You've been told the Vestal Virgins were the most honored women in Rome, but that is a massive lie. They weren't just guardians of the sacred fire, they were live biological buffers tasked with protecting the pure gene pool of the Roman state. Whenever the empire faced a catastrophe, Rome didn't look for logic. They looked for a bloodline to blame and a woman to bury alive. Today, we are uncovering the dark genetic truth behind the greatest political cleansing operation in history, the live entombment of the Vestals. Stop looking at ancient Rome as just a religious state of marble temples. For Rome, these women were not isolated religious figures. They were a genetic network used for the survival of the state. These girls were hand-picked between the ages of 6 and 10 from elite patrician families with supposedly flawless genetic maps. The slightest physical defect, a blemish on their skin, or a stutter in their speech, meant instant elimination. Why? Because they had to be the physical manifestation of Rome's perfect DNA. The extinguishing of the sacred fire wasn't just a religious error, it was a biological betrayal of Rome's genetic integrity. The goal was to create a pure genetic shield against national disaster. But when geopolitical tides turned, this noble bloodline didn't protect them. It put a target on their backs. When we analyze historical data with modern forensic methods, a chilling pattern emerges. Think of the year 216 BC, the Battle of Cannae. Hannibal of Carthage slits the throats of 50,000 Roman soldiers in a single day. The Roman state faces its greatest geopolitical and military collapse in history. Was the state's response to change strategy? No, to mask its own military and leadership failures. The state searched for a glitch in the biological algorithm of the system. And who paid the price? Two Vestals named Floronia and Opimia, the Pontifex Maximus, explained away the military bankruptcy by accusing the priestesses of impurity, covering a massive strategic defeat. With a lie of genetic contamination, impurity or incestum in the Roman tongue was actually a systematic weapon used to prune the bloodlines of rival political families. This wasn't a religious ritual. It was a calculated genetic cleansing to prevent the public from questioning the system. The state labeled these women as biological outliers and erased them. When a Vestal was accused, the process wasn't a trial. It was a forensic audit of blood purity. The targeted woman was violently stripped of all familial protections. Her status was reset to 0, and she was completely deleted from the state's biological database. Through AI-driven genealogical analysis, a shocking data point is revealed. There were often deep kinship ties between the accusers and the rival families of the accused priestess. This was never a coincidence. It was a state-sanctioned, ruthless genetic purge. After the judgment, the sacred white wool garments were torn from her body. This ritual was the formal cancellation of her genetic status and the final, brutal step before her physical erasure from the state record. No one would ever call her Roman again. And then came the final stage, Campus Celeratus, the field of wickedness. A dark void just beneath the Colline Gate. This wasn't just a grave, it was a dark laboratory where a high-value genetic asset was completely isolated from the Roman biosphere. Why were they buried alive? Because according to Roman law, spilling sacred blood directly was a curse, leading them down a ladder into a cramped subterranean vault and leaving them with only a dim lamp, a bowl of water, some milk, and a crust of bread allowed the state to bypass this karmic penalty through a legal loophole. When we 3D model that vault and analyze its biophysics, the horror is undeniable. Once the hatch is sealed and mounded with earth, calculate the oxygen depletion rates. That dim lamp would quickly consume the limited oxygen and eventually flicker out. When total darkness fell, carbon dioxide poisoning would slowly begin. No blood spilled, no physical trauma, just a cold, technical execution designed to leave no trace. It was the peak of psychological and physiological destruction. The goal wasn't just to kill her, but to reset her biological existence, as if she had never lived. Even today, when we look at modern institutions, we see how individuals are brutally sacrificed to protect the perceived integrity of the system. Corporations, governments, and massive structures always need a scapegoat to mask their strategic bankruptcies. Rome's ancient method is the biological ancestor of corporate scapegoating. Looking at long-term population genetics, these executions provided a bloody psychological relief to a desperate public seeking a biological reset. The Vestal Virgins were not Rome's luck or its guardian angels. They were isolated genetic prisoners, paying the price for political failures beyond their control. Rome's flawless law was hypocritical enough to abandon its most innocent to the darkness for its own survival. Predictive modeling tells us this. Even the most protected are vulnerable when their personal data is reclassified as a liability to the empire. So, the next time you look at Rome's dazzling white marbles, the majestic Colosseum, or its statues, remember this truth. Beneath that perfect architecture, there still remains the soot of those lamps, the freezing cold of those subterranean cells, and the silent screams of the women erased by the system.